The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker shows President Trump lagging behind in a key state he won during 2016. In Wisconsin, our most recent polling shows Joe Biden leading by 7 points. The president narrowly flipped the state last election. Mr. Trump made a campaign stop in Wisconsin Monday as Democrats kicked off their national convention. While there, he sharpened his attacks on his rivals.
You want to crush our economy under the crazy socialist policies of sleepy Joe Biden and his boss, Kamala, and his other boss, Nancy Pelosi. She's a beauty.
And Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin joins me now. Senator, thanks very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So President Trump, as you know, has been railing against mail-in voting. During his trip to your state, he also said, quote, "The only way we lose the election is if the election is rigged." What do you make of his comments?
Well, we've been seeing such disturbing issues unfolding with the U.S. Postal Service after President Trump installed Trump megadonor into the job as Postmaster General. And it seems clearly designed to increase anxiety and fear about voting by mail, voting absentee, which is, of course, the safest way to cast your ballot during a pandemic. But I think that President Trump coming to Wisconsin yesterday at a time when the top public health experts say don't hold rallies, don't gather people in large numbers. And we know from his previous campaign photo ops that people have been put in harm's way. And in fact, a number of his supporters came down with the coronavirus after he went to Tulsa. I pray that doesn't happen after his visit to Wisconsin. But his railing about the mail-in vote when he and Melania have just ordered their absentee ballots for Florida is the height of irony and hypocrisy.
Well, the Postmaster General has suspended the planned changes to the U.S. Postal Service until after the election. What's your reaction to that?
I don't think suspending is enough. I think he needs to reverse the actions he's already taken. You know, this has been so troubling to watch. I've heard from hundreds upon hundreds of Wisconsinites who have witnessed the delays and been harmed by the delays. I spoke with a constituent yesterday who has had his medication that he's supposed to take daily delayed by multiple days. The VA just said that about 25% of the prescriptions that they're sending out are experiencing some delay. These are really scary things for my constituents. But again, in the context of an election, it's causing people quite a bit of anxiety about whether their constitutional right to cast the ballot will be interfered with by this president and this Postmaster General. So yes, it's good that they're suspended until after the election, but we actually need to reverse some of the damage that has already been done, the removal of sorting equipment and the blue postal boxes.
And will you seek legislation then to try to force some of these reversals that you're looking for?
Absolutely. So not only will we be looking at legislation, and I'm pleased that the House of Representatives is actually reconvening this week to look at necessary funding to support the Postal Service meeting its standards, but also to look at reversing what the Postmaster General has already put in place. The investigation underway by the Inspector General of the Postal Service is one that I joined my colleagues in demanding. And just today, we learned that the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security will begin, well, they've already begun an investigation, but will have a hearing by the end of this week.
I'm going to go back to the Wisconsin primary. earlier this year. There was this last-minute requests, a number of last-minute requests for absentee ballots due to the pandemic. And during your primary, many voters reported that they didn't receive their ballots by Election Day. How is your state better preparing for November? What are some of the lessons learned?
Well, certainly in April, we saw a lot of chaos and confusion. Part of it had to do with the fact that we were early on in the pandemic and nobody had prepared back in January and February for the potential of having so many people seek absentee ballots. There was also poor communication, I think, between the Postal Service and our election officials. Some of the ballots weren't adequately postmarked to prove that they had been cast or put in the mail by Election Day. All of those issues, at least, can be resolved through more effective communication, and that is happening. But these systemic delays that we're seeing, those are things that good communication alone won't resolve. And so we really do need to have the Postmaster General take steps beyond just the suspension of his reorganizing efforts, but really to go back to meeting the standards of timely delivery of our mail.
I mentioned earlier the pivotal role Wisconsin played in the 2016 election. How do you see the political landscape now, Senator?
Well, a lot has changed, obviously, since Wisconsin voters narrowly gave victory to Donald Trump in 2016. And I think that one of the things regarding Trump that Wisconsin voters are seeing is that he didn't live up to the promises that he made when he was running as a candidate in 2016. You know, he promised to buy America, hire America, but instead we saw trade wars that led to jobs going overseas. There was a tax measure that benefited multinational corporations far more than it did hardworking families in the state of Wisconsin. And then, of course, during the pandemic, we have seen exacerbation of the hardships faced by our farmers and especially our manufacturing sector. You know, I don't blame the president for the pandemic, but I do blame him for an utterly failed response to the pandemic. And I do believe that Wisconsin voters are very aware of those failures and very aware of how badly our economy is hurting right now. And then the most recent failure to stick with negotiations for an emergency coronavirus relief and stimulus package when many are unemployed, and now they suddenly see the rug pulled under them when the previously enacted CARES Act provisions expired. People are hurting, and they are looking for somebody with empathy and leadership, and that's Joe Biden.
Our time is running short here, Senator. Before we let you go, what are your thoughts on Senator Kamala Harris as the VP pick for Joe Biden?
I am as excited as I can be to have my friend and colleague Kamala Harris earn the nomination, earn the right to be running mate with Joe Biden. It's going to be a wonderful ticket. You can see absolute excitement about the pairing. And, you know, I think that Joe Biden always said he wanted somebody who was tested on the national stage, had experience. She has experience in both executive branch and legislative branch politics. And she will be a very, very effective partner to President Biden when we elect them on November 3rd.
Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. Senator, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.